And now, coming to you from the Pensado Media Center, powered by Westlake Pro.
We're going to go down the EDM lane this week. Avid still got their contest going. Make sure you enter to win. We're still in the new place. You're at the place. It is absolutely Pensado's place.
Yay! The saga continues, man. This is just an amazing place.
Yeah, exactly. Shall we get it going?
Yeah, please.
It's Thanksgiving week. Make sure that you take a moment to give thanks. If you don't celebrate Thanksgiving and you're watching us, still take a moment to give thanks. We have a lot more to be blessed about, and I know things are tough. Things are tough for us too, but you gather the loved ones around you and you take a moment and breathe. It'll make your creativity better and keep you balanced. So it's good stuff. So happy Thanksgiving to all those who celebrate, and eat some food and create Thanksgiving for those who don't, correct?
100%.
Happy to be with you as usual. You know our partners. They are Vintage King, the Blackbird Academy, Audio Technica, Aftermaster, Isotope, Recording Connection, Avid, Studio 202 DC, and the Fab Factory. Very cool stuff. How about Avid and the Pro Tools contest? Make sure you enter. Go to pensadosplace.tv/PT12. You can see the URL right there on the screen. Make sure you enter. We're giving 2 away a week. Dave's going to announce some winners this week. But it also makes you eligible for the grand prize, which is the Apogee Quartet. So 2 a week all the way through December. And then a grand prize of the Apogee Quartet. We've had about, 6 winners so far? 4 winners. 4 winners. 4, exactly. So we got winners this week. You want to give them the names?
Julian Plumby and Travis Snow.
Do you know where they're from? I don't.
Yeah, they're both from Idaho.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Well, let me say, Plumby, he's from Brooklyn. Snow is from
Canada.
Yeah.
It's somewhere where there's snow.
I was thinking Rhode Island, but I'll take those. They're all the same.
Either way, Chongor will find you and make sure he sends stuff to you. Hey, the EDM space is one that constantly fascinates us. We've decided to drill down farther and learn more about it from a production standpoint, the way they tour, how they approach things. It's really innovative. It's really interesting. We've been stalking this guy for about a year. His schedule permitted that we could have him. His manager, Anders, was very helpful to us. A couple weeks ago, Dave had a conversation. Please enjoy Henry Fong.
Hey, Henry, man, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody on our staff, from Chongor to Herb to myself, Leandro, big fan. Appreciate you taking time out of your rising star status to come with us. Man, you're skyrocketing, aren't you?
I don't know about that. I
do. You're really on fire. And I know you're very, very busy, and I appreciate you and Anders coming by and spending a little time with us, because you guys, in a year, you'll look at this show and you go, damn, they had him on? No, this cat's the real deal. And he's musical, he's got everything. He's from South Florida, sorta. Does that count as South Florida, Leandro?
I guess so. The top of South Florida, technically.
Yeah, you're about a mile away from South Georgia. Come on, buddy. Hey, man, when you sit down to create something, are you trying to create something that just 100% pleases yourself, like some artists, which is a valid way? Or are you do you keep in mind that this might be good at a festival, this might be good at a small club, or all of the above?
I think earlier on in my productions, I kind of focused on making music for the club and festivals, because I was a DJ before, and I never produced until started producing. I started producing, I think, around like 2011. So all the time up until then, I was just a DJ. I would just play records, and then when I got into it, I would just, I would make records for the club. I'd be like, what would I make to make people dance? And that's how I started it. So I think that's been a strength, but at the same time, it's kind of limited. It kind of limits you, because you're stuck in this one space where that music only works there, and eventually, you kind of want to start making music for a broader audience. So I would say it's a blessing and a curse that I can think that way. But
that's pretty cool.
I do like, my passion is though making high energy club music.
When you were DJing, you had a reputation for your transitions being really nice. No, you really did. Nice is the wrong word, but people talk about that, about your ability to do that. When you're trying to keep people dancing or entertain people, are you constantly increasing the tempo? Are you going up a scale? Or how do you...
actually, I really try to mix harmonically whenever I can. So as you know, like there's the circle of fifths, and I have all my tracks labeled by key pretty neatly. So not only that, once I analyze the key of the song, I kind of just, it sticks in my memory. So if I'm in the middle of my set, I play a song and I'm like, okay, this is in A minor. It's like, I can just scroll through my list, be like, oh, that song's in A minor. Boom, throw it in. It's gonna
G in the next song.
For A minor, I would go to D or go to E.
Oh, okay. Well, A minor is the equivalent of C, so you go to G, but who's counting?
Exactly.
I find that fascinating. So one of the elements in dance music is tempo that can control feeling and emotion better than nothing else, it seems like. Are we getting slower or faster or both now? It seems like we're getting both, right?
It's a little bit of both, I think. I'd say most of the dance music is primarily, around 128 BPMs. And, when you play, just say you have like an hour and a half, 2-hour club set, and you play straight 128 BPMs the whole set, it kind of gets a little bit stagnant. So I think it's good to change the tempo. And I think there's plenty of good songs around the 100 BPM range. 100 BPM has a really cool groove to it.
Really?
Yeah, I think out of all the tempos that you could ever make music at, that area, for some reason, it feels like think about a lot of the big hip hop records too. A lot of them at 100 BPM.
A lot of the trap stuff.
A lot of, yeah. So it's cool to kind of bring things down to 100 BPMs for a couple songs. Then when you bring it back up to 128, it just has a nice impact. And then you're right, a lot of the other new like trap and dubstep stuff, I saw that going from, it's usually like 140 or 70. So that'd be like the halftime. But I've seen it go to like 75 or 150. So it's kind of gotten a little bit faster too. And for that kind of stuff, it seems to have a little bit more energy at 150, I think. So you're right, you've seen it go both ways.
Are there any restrictions about tempo that you think in your mind when you're putting a set together? Well, I can't do this because of this, or
a little bit, because I don't primarily produce other tempos. I've just started the last like few months. I started exploring a little bit more in other tempos, but so there's a little bit of a restriction. If I find this cool song and it's like 90 BPMs, I feel like 90 BPMs it's a weird range, and it's like you only have one song. It's like, how am I going to go from 90 back to 128 where most of my set will be?
Okay.
So it's kind of
does radio have any influence on what tempos you're doing?
Not really, because radio and club is completely different. But I think if you are making music for the radio, I feel like you kind of open yourself up to all the different tempos a little bit more.
Okay, so it's a little less restrictive.
I think
you
so.
don't get to control what comes before and after, right?
Yeah.
I never thought about that. And how important was, say, a song like "Wake Me Up" in terms of the EDM world saying, "Wow, we can really get something on radio"? Has it altered things a little bit?
I think it didn't necessarily alter things. I think what happened is a lot of the EDM artists, they just hit a point where they were so big and the radio was the next step to go. Because a lot of these guys, they've had so many big club records. They grew as big as they could go, and then the next step is to let's hit the rest of the world. Let's reach a bigger audience and reach out. And I think you'll see a lot of the big EDM artists right now, they're shooting for radio because they kind of capped out in EDM world. They had the big EDM hits, and now it's time to move on.
Is that something you see in your future?
Yeah, I mean,
it's inevitable, right?
A radio hit's not going to hurt anybody. Let's be honest, but.
Yeah,
I think it'd be cool. I'm not necessarily, I don't sit down and I'm like, yo, let me make a radio hit. I just, if it happens, I think that would be great, though.
Well, I'm being serious. Why are there so many genres in dance music? Like, it's kind of daunting and confusing for some of my friends when I say you should start listening to this type of music, and then they come back after going to Beatport and they're like, well, do I use deep house from 1950? Do I do Chicago house infused with some... there's just so many different...
You're right, it can get a little...
heavy metal's that way too, by the way, and I love metal.
It is kind of...
But you don't know where to jump in, Why does that happen? Because does it happen because a particular group of people want a name so that they can get an audience quicker, but it actually excludes more people than it draws in a name sometimes.
I agree with you. I think when people make new genres and stuff, they have, it's like kind of someone with a particular style, and they just kind of want to call something theirs. So then they'll start joking around, I think, on their social media or whatever, and then the next thing you know, the star blows up, and everyone likes that sound, and then everyone else kind of follows the sound a little bit, and then you have the birth of a new genre. But at the same time, it's both good and bad, because you have so many different subgenres that anybody, once someone steps foot in dance music, you have this, and you can kind of, it's going to keep you busy for a long time. And I think that's why dance music back in the 90s, it kind of, a lot of it sounded the same, and there was very few genres. And then you saw it kind of die out, and then in the 2000s, hip hop kind of started getting really popular again. And now you see dance music bigger than ever and just growing, and I think that's because there's so many different types of genres, and there's something for everyone within dance music. So even if you don't listen to dance music, you can pick apart any one of the hundreds of subgenres or whatever, and I think you can find something that you enjoy. But you're right, at the same time, it's kind of labeling things, and it seems a little bit exclusive. So what if you were just to call all the dance music just dance music and there were no genres? Well,
where would you advise someone to go on the web to learn more about dance music?
I think, like you said, just go on Beatport and just start exploring. They have all the music there on the
Ignore genres when you start. It's not. I mean, I'm not being disrespectful to the medium because I love dance music, but ignore the genres when you start. It's not that important. It becomes important as you get more sophisticated with the music. And where do you go to find samples and inspiration and songs, ideas and stuff?
I listen to a lot of older stuff, a lot of like the disco stuff. Even listen to like a lot of old reggae stuff too, and I'll kind of there's a lot of cool stuff to be had there. You know, whether it's like a drum fill from a Bob Marley song, and you kind of just a lot of those old songs, they start with the drum fills, and then and then it starts, and you can just boom, you just snag that little drum fill, and you maybe chop it up, change the tempo, pitch it up or down, and then you slide it in between, you know, a phrase or whatever, and it just kind of adds a cool thing to it. So I do that, and then I'll do some of like the more traditional sample packs, like everyone uses the Vengeance stuff too. And then I'll go around on some of like the Loop websites and just listen to the packs, and if there's sounds in there I like, just buy it.
So you would just take a sound and not use the whole loop?
Yeah.
Going back a sentence or two, when you said the reggae beat is the and, so 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah, it's all
I noticed
upbeat.
you love the and beat. You use it a lot. And
Yeah.
and then I noticed that you also like the 1 and 2 and 3 and. You do that a lot too. Is that conscious, or is that just the way you like to? The 1 and creates a little tension going into the chorus, but it just flows naturally, right? It's not something.
I think anything on the upbeat or the offbeat, it just kind of has this weird, it kind of has this really cool groove to it. And it's one of those, it's kind of like a surefire way to keep everyone dancing, I think. Especially when the bass, when you got the kick, and then you got the bass on the offbeat, that always has a good vibe for the dance floor.
I can't remember what song it was of yours. Might have been, I'm real bad with song titles. It might have been Dem Wine, but there was a song that it felt like you were swinging a little bit. Was it that song you were actually kind of swinging a little bit?
Which one? A couple of the songs, a couple of the, in the drops and some of the lead patterns, I'll do some of the little, the 16th note swing. Okay. And that kind of adds a little fun to it.
So I'm not crazy.
No, you're not crazy. You're right.
I don't remember other people doing that effectively. They might have done it, but it never caught my ear. But when you do it, it's a moment. It really catches your ear.
Really? That's good.
So you'll stay longer, right?
But yeah, I would just call that just the 16th note, little swing notes.
Here again, it feels to me, and I'm not quite as up to date on dance music as you and Changor are, but it feels to me like the 40, 30, 40, 50 cycles aren't as important now as they used to be like 3 or 4 years ago. It seems like that sub frequency range down in there, you still hear it, but but you have to give up a little bit of headroom to put it in there. So in order to get your mixes louder, you got to get the extra from somewhere. And it seems like we're losing a little bit of that sub now.
I think what started happening is with the kick drums, a lot of it was being distorted more in the mid-range, and that kind of the last couple years, I think that kind of became the sound of a lot of the club records. So in order to compensate, obviously, for the loss of headroom, I think they just used a lot less elements throughout the whole track. So you have a drop, you literally, some of the songs just have a kick drum and a lead sound. And I'm talking lead sound, just one channel of lead. That's it. And that minimal effect kind of, it did really well at the festivals for the last couple of years. But I think they just compensated for that in other ways, like removing elements out of the track.
You mentioned drops. Do you do your drops? Do you record all the tracks start to finish and then go back and pick where the drops are, or do you record the drops as you go along?
Sometimes I just open a track and I just start with the drop. So I'll leave enough space for the rest of the track, and then I'll start the drop, say at a minute in or whatever.
You'll start a track with a drop?
So I'll just get a kick drum or whatever and like a lead sound, and I'll just start making the drop first. And then other tracks, you might start with a cool melody or a sample or something. But yeah, sometimes the drop idea just comes first sometimes.
I guess in a way that makes sense, because if you can hold your own interest with just a kick, a snare, and a hi-hat, then that's a pretty good sign for the rest of the song, right? It can't go backwards. If you were to give a young cat coming along advice that wanted to come into the industry right now, and let's say it's a young guy, and he doesn't really have experience, he knows he loves the music, he knows he loves the genre, and he wants to start. Now, obviously, he thinks he can start at the top. We know that's not going to happen, so check this advice out.
I think right now it's a very, very competitive industry, and I think the best advice I could give to anybody is, really experiment around before you start your artist career. It'd be cool to just find your sound, make some really unique music, and then kind of show it to the world, rather than, I feel like I kind of did it a little bit backwards. I was a DJ first, and I started producing, and I'm like, oh, here's a couple tracks, and I just put them up on my SoundCloud, messing around, and and then it all just kind of had a snowball effect from there. I wish I had kind of gone back, been a producer for longer, figured out my sound, and then introduced my artist career all with like a...
Respectfully, I think you're wrong, man.
You think? I don't know.
No, I think
I'm just kind of looking back and being critical on how
we're
things...
probably similar on our, the way we treat ourselves. Sometimes I have this weird combination of total abject arrogance combined with crippling humility and insecurities. I guess that's what works in music the best. So, you think SoundCloud is still a good place to start? Or
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's still, whether there's a lot of negativity about SoundCloud now and, the copyright stuff, but at the end of the day, it's still the number one platform to share music on, that and YouTube.
When you're putting something on SoundCloud and trying to start your career, are there little techniques, like if I was starting my career at 20 years old on SoundCloud, I'd make sure that my drums were like killing people. I don't care about nothing else. I just want the groove to hit you, and I'm a big fan of the combination of groove and melody. Melody and groove is going to win.
Melody is always
all the time.
Melody wins in all styles of music, always, I think.
How do you select your lead lines? You just do your ideas ever start with the lead line, or?
It depends. Sometimes you just sit down, you don't have anything, you start messing on the keyboard, and you're like, oh, that note sounds cool, and that sounds cool. Or some of it might start with a little bit of inspiration, listening to like an older record or something. If I'm listening to like an older reggae record and I hear a cool like horn line or something, I might be like, oh, I like how he played it in this way, and then maybe just figure out a way to bring that into 128 BPMs, because it's weird. A lot of other genres of music across the rest of the world, I guess, a lot of it's not 128 BPMs. It's other tempos and stuff. So when you play other stuff at 128 BPMs, sometimes it sounds really bad, or it's like, whoa, this is a whole new look and feel for this style of music.
Right.
So,
Henry, you said that it was important for someone starting out to take advantage of SoundCloud. How do you rise above all the noise and all the music on SoundCloud to get yourself known?
I think at the end of the day, if the music is good, it'll get shared. It'll go viral. People start reposting it. They'll share it on their social media, and I think that's the first way. And the second way is to, I think, remixing popular songs could help too.
Oh, cool.
Obviously, you're gonna run into
That's a great idea.
You're gonna run into a couple copyright issues and stuff with SoundCloud, so be careful about that. But I think that's a good way to start. And then maybe after you get a couple successful, remixes, and then build up some good original content to drop after the remixes, maybe.
What influence of yours would shock me the most?
Well, I would say a big part of it is the music I grew up listening to, like stuff that my parents were playing. So like a lot of like the like disco stuff from the 70s, and then a lot of that stuff from the 80s too. But I think that kind of in the back of my mind, you have those songs that the song, the melodies, you know what the song is, but you can't. For me, some of the artists I couldn't even tell you who the artist was. But I think a lot of that stuff from the 70s and 80s has actually been a pretty big influence, especially the disco stuff.
Oh, well, I love. There's a guy out of Chicago named Shep Pettibone. I love his work back in the day. He's worth looking up. Shep Pettibone.
Check it out.
One of the things I admire about the EDM space is, in some genres, you go and track and you put your song together, you assemble all the sounds and everything, and then you send it to a mixer, which is a good thing. You should always send it to a mixer, and preferably a very expensive mixer. And but in your world, you guys choose the right sound to begin with. So mixing for you is selecting the sound, whereas mixing in some other genres is selecting a sound, hoping it'll be right later. But you select the sound you want at the time you're creating.
Absolutely. I think that's actually the way I produce too. I've been in the studio with a couple different guys, and I feel like there's two ways to do it. You could search all day to find that one sound that's really going to fit in the song, or you could get a so-so sound and you could slap like 15 plugins on it, process the crap out of it, and then kind of get in there. But then imagine doing that with 60 channels. You're gonna have quite a bit of issues at the end of the mix or whatever.
But by and large, you pick the sounds you want. Pretty close.
I think it's very important to pick the right sounds, and not only that, like the sounds you are putting in there, make sure they're good, high quality samples. You know what I mean? Spend your time, find the right sounds. I think that's more important than anything.
I heard somewhere that some of the Vengeance samples were MP3s. Is that true? Hope I'm not starting a rumor.
I think some of the older stuff, some of the older Vengeance stuff, they did sample that from other songs, and some of the songs they sampled are like super old songs too. So they definitely, I think, could be like poor quality. But
well, you ready to try a batter's box?
Let's do it.
So let's do something a little different. I'm going to give you, I'm going to say something like a particular instrument or something, and tell me an artist in the dance space that embodies good use of that.
Okay.
And feel free to toss yourself in one or two. Kick drums.
Me? No, I'm just kidding. Kick drums.
That was good.
I would have to say W&W. They have really good kick drums.
Reverbs.
Reverb. I like Showtex reverbs because they are really good at doing the gating on the reverb.
Okay.
That's a
great answer.
Yeah.
Bass.
Bass would have to be Noisia. And those guys are sound design pros.
I'm calling them vocal samples. Like some of the trap music has those little vocal samples.
Yeah.
Who do you think embodies that?
I think Skrillex would do the best job of chopping up the vocal samples and using vocal sounds as and he'll play the vocal sounds as synths too.
Okay.
So I think he's
cool. Snares.
It's got to be probably one of the dubstep guys.
Okay. Lead synths.
Oh man, who's got? I think right now this guy called Wewek, he has the coolest lead sounds. What he does is he uses like bird sounds and like all these like weird jungle sounds. So he'll like have like a lion and birds, and he'll take these sounds and he'll put them in a sampler. And just by putting a very organic, like, natural sound into a sampler, you just get this. And then you play.
Spell his name.
Wiwek.
Oh wow, I gotta check
that
out.
So he makes some really cool sounds.
Delays.
That's a weird question. I don't know. I would say in general, though, to try to answer that, I would say if I am listening to something with really cool delays in it, it's going to be the older like reggae stuff.
Oh, okay.
So some of those really, I don't even know what you'd call them, the really old school delays they use on some of that stuff is really cool.
You call them really old school delays.
There you
go. Sub bass.
Oh, the dubstep guys again. Any of the top dubstep guys, they have the best. I think they understand sub frequencies and sub basses the best. And it's funny, those guys are, I think most of the dubstep guys are some of the best sound engineers within the realm of dance music.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
They've also been doing it longer than anybody else, so they should be good, right?
Because they've moved on from other stuff like drum and bass too.
Yeah. Pads.
Pads.
It's kind of hard to say a good pad, right?
I'd say any of the trance guys, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the trance guys, they got really good pads.
If you were stranded on an island, what piece of gear would you want with you?
Maybe just the grand piano and just jam out, and just write some melodies.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Man, I'm going to stop right there. That caught me off guard. Whew. Okay, you won. Good job. One of the things that I think people don't understand is how intricate and how much talent and how many gifts it takes to work in the space that you're in. A lot of times because, oh, well, I know what the beat's going to be. It's just going to be a kick drum on the quarter notes and blah, 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 blah. But isn't it true that's starting there, having that foundation of just don't. If you don't do anything up on top of that, it can get a little monotonous. But having that foundation that's always solid, you can play off of that and get your little swing beats in. You can get all these things on top of it. So the gift in your space is what you do on top of the quarter note beat. So it doesn't make it easier. It makes it harder to come up with things that make the quarter note beats feel like they're moving and having
not only that, to make
impact.
them feel new, because I feel like this year in dance music, especially, a lot of people have been experimenting more with different kick patterns beyond the 4/4. I've seen a lot of like more B-more stuff, more of the breaks kick patterns. What else? Like just other genres that have different kick patterns too. I don't even know what you would call some of the kick patterns, but that kind of just opens up the door. It's a different groove though that a lot of people, like if you're at a festival and you play a song with, like a breaks kick pattern or something, it kind of has different. It doesn't have the jump up and down feel to it. It's more of like a groove.
Are there certain patterns that you say to yourself, well, we can't do that because the dance floor will bump into each other and kill each other if they lose the groove?
Yeah.
So you do say
absolutely. Like if you use a kick pattern that's too confusing, that's why a lot of people kind of play it safe and they stick with the 4/4 kick pattern because they know it's going to work. And that's kind of, it's tough to do that. So what I've been doing is the B-more pattern. So it's dun, 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 dun. So you have the first couple beats of the kick drum is like a 4/4, and then it has this extra little stutter to it at the end. So the first couple beats, you can kind of jump, and then it's got this weird groove to it.
Would you use a lighter kick for that little accent kick, or would you just use the same sound?
I would just use the same kick usually, and then maybe on the fourth beat, since there is nothing on that last beat because of the last kick kind of stutters a little bit. You just maybe put like some sort of percussion there to kind of supplement where the fourth kick would go maybe. How
do you solve the problem of putting a snare on the 2 and the 4 that already has a kick drum on it and hear it? You just have to like take all the low end out and make it kind of piercing to cut above the top end of the kick, or because I noticed that the snare sounds a lot of time aren't what I would call exciting, but they serve a purpose, and so I'll try to add more classic EQ to the snare, and of course it just destroys everything. It's
I just usually if I'm going to put a snare, obviously the snares come across the kick on a 4/4, but just do like a simple low cut, maybe like 100 hertz, so you kind of want that punch too, and then I give it a little bit of a side chain too. Just a tiny bit of sidechain, but the problem is too though, a lot of the kicks now.
You're sidechaining the kick with the snare?
I'll sidechain the snare to the kick sometimes.
Okay.
And then I'll put another layer, so like if I have like a deeper snare, or that has like more of that wooden sound, maybe in like the 200-300 hertz range, and then I'll put like a layer, like a lighter one, like maybe like a bit of like a ride cymbal or noise on top, and then I'll leave that one not sidechained.
And that will come in when there's not a kick.
No, I'll put that one over the snare too, just really, really lightly in the background. So you have like the lower layer kind of sidechained.
That's cool.
And I don't know. I think it's tough too, because in a lot of the current dance music tracks, a lot of people they've been the kick top, the click, the transient, whatever you want to call it, it's become like really important in a lot of the dance songs. And I've heard some crazy techniques people do to get these like kick tops just like really cutting through everything. I've heard of somebody actually, what they do is they get their mix and they're bouncing out the final master, but they take the click off the kick off. So there's no transient to the kick. It's just the bass part of the kick. They bounce the whole session out. Then they bring the master, the full master without the kick transient, and they put it back in the session. And then they take the kick click, and they put it back over, and they basically make like a mashup, and then they bounce that back out.
Oh, that's cool.
It's hard running those kick tops through all it's going through compressors and limiters and all this processing and stuff, and sometimes at the end of the mixing you kind of lose that brightness to it.
Yeah. But you can
just
always
layer stuff like you said.
Yeah, but you don't even have to start with the original kick sound. You can start with a really good sample that has all that, and then bring that back. Sometimes I add John McBride's real drum sounds from Blackbird back into something just to give it a real kind of wood sound or feel. But anyway, I digress. Man, listen, I can't thank you enough for dropping by. I know you're the busiest
thank you guys
guy
for having me.
You're the busiest guy in EDM.
No, not even close.
I've been a big fan of Henry's for a long, long time. Chongor, as you all know, Chongor, put him on my radar a while back, and since then I've become a big fan. Now that I've met him, there's several things that stand out to me. The man is bright, he's educated, he has a college degree, he has major gifts, and he's not trying to be the top guy tomorrow. He's just trying to have a lengthy career making great music and great tracks and letting that speak for itself. Sometimes you try to hype your way in and it doesn't work out. But here's the poster child for just hard work, great tracks, great creativity, and you'll see his career rise. He's almost at the top now, but you'll get to see that last little 10%.
Hope so.
All right? Thanks. We'll see you soon.